Hi everyone, it's Don from Indomitus, and today I've got the Primaris Chaplain from the Indomitus box set. So the first thing I noticed with this one is his head's on a bit of a stick, and I thought, well, how am I going to paint that? And I wondered what would I do. So I decided that I dry fitted it together, and I decided that I could take off the head separately. It wasn't going to make any difference to how the model went ahead. So I kept that to one side. So I primed it black because obviously he's black. I use Vallejo just standard airbrush primer for this, and to be honest, I was quite happy with the coverage, the quality of the finish. So I just left them with that black. I didn't feel the need to paint anything other than that. I also primed the head as well. And because he's a Souls of Brathnor, I had to paint his pauldron the standard colours, so that's Incubi Darkness. And then I just mix a little bit of white with the Incubi Darkness and come in from the top. That speckled too much. I don't know, I think I had dry tip on the brush, the airbrush there, so I had to go and do it again, but I didn't get it on camera. So I wanted to give some highlights to the black, which is obviously very difficult. So I'm using Dark Reaper here, and I'm picking the bits that would get the sunlight. So I'm giving it a very subtle grey highlight to make the black look less black, basically. And I do that in all the parts that the sun or the light source or whatever it happens to be would hit. So that's, I guess, a zenithal highlight of Dark Reaper. Really liked it though. Thought it made a bit of a difference. So moving on to the next step, there was the robe or the tabard, I guess. So I just painted this white, and obviously with a brush over black primer, it took several coats to do. And then I used the only contrast paint I own, which is Apothecary White. I used that to give me some of the shadows in the folds. I think it's very useful for that. I don't, as I say, I see loads of people doing slap chop this and slap chop that with contrast paints. I don't own them, so I don't get involved with that sort of stuff. And then to make the robes look a bit dirty, a bit more worn, I used a sort of brown wash, very very thin. I did a couple of coats over the general parts, and then a couple of more coats just at the bottom to, where it's been brushing through the parts. And this is the thing with the Chaplain model. There is gold. Lots of gold. All of the gold. So I've just used Retributor armor, and you start painting gold, and you don't stop painting gold for hours, but it really does sell the model. So yeah, you can't complain too much. Just make sure it's a little bit thinned, because if you don't, it can go on quite gloopy. And in details such as this chest piece, there's so many tiny little feathers in there. If your paint's too thick, it will clog up and you'll lose the effect. And we highlight this later on with a wash to sort of make it stand out a bit more. But here, I was conscious that everything was going to be gold, so I decided to make some different color choices. So I use gold for the main parts of the sort of all the special stuff that he's got. But you'll notice I've left the skulls out, and I'm going to paint them a different colour. Sorry, the camera's a bit out of focus there, but I'm just using gunmetal grey or lead belcher to paint all his armour joints. And then I'm going to come back with a Nuln oil wash just to make them sort of highlighted. Okay, so I mentioned before about the colours. So the Souls of Brathnor colour, as you know, are that sort of bright orange colour with the white stripe. So I decided I would make his bolt pistol the top cover of it. I'd do that with the Wild Rider red, and then put a white stripe on it. And I also used for this sort of backpack piece, the sort of crown thing that goes on top, I also used that as well for an orange, to give it an orange accent, and also on his chest as well. This is just a standard sepia wash, or I think Reichland flesh shade is what they call it these days. What's happening here? Oh yeah, I'm putting the Reichland flesh shade on top of the gold, which really helps bring out all the fine details, especially on the sort of rib cage part as well. which is pretty handy. So I do that, and there's a lot of gold on this model. That's kind of his thing. He's obviously into his bling. So the book, the litanies or whatever the book is, I used scab red here, and I was kind of banking on the black shining through this a bit to give it a sort of old leathery look. I touch it up in a couple of places with a lighter red just to give it a bit of definition, but realistically it's just a red book. And I come in and it's got an embossed symbol on the front of it, and I paint that with gold as well. So that's the book. What else happens now? Oh yeah, so I'm going to go in here with, it looks like I've got the purple wash. So I've got a purple wash, and I'm going over the red, and I'm just trying to get the sort of checkered pattern that's on the leather grip. I'm just trying to make that stand out against the red before I go on and then highlight all the individual little checks. You could probably dry brush it if you were careful enough, but this is a centerpiece model for me, or at least a massive HQ choice for me. So I wanted to take my time and really do it some justice. Now's the pages of the book. So they're all sculpted in there with the leaf, so it's a really easy thing. That's just bone white going on there, and I'm going to give that a wash, much like the what do you call them, the parchments, the oaths, oath of moments that he's got all of them. Speaking of that, I actually came to the decision that I wanted to try something different with this one. I wanted to do a black parchment. I'm sure I've seen this. I didn't come up with this idea. I'm sure someone's done this before. But I dry brushed it with grey just to highlight the creases. And then I decided I would really try and push myself. And I would paint a little white aquila on the bottom of it. And wow, was that complicated. But I'm pretty happy with the results. I turned it so I was just painting vertical lines. So that was my sort of secret way of doing that. And it just broke up the whole thing. So it would have looked crazy if it had been just all, you can see the aquila, and I did the capital letter with the red letter with the gold boss. This is the piece I was telling about. I wanted to tie it back into the Souls of Brathnor. So I used that Wild Rider red on the insert of this just to do that. And then while I've got some red on my brush, I'm going to start painting the purity seals. I did paint a couple of them different colours just because, he probably didn't earn them all in the one day. So maybe the wax is older or just different coloured, just to give it a bit of variety. So this one's a bit brighter and the other ones are a bit darker. You'll see there I painted the skull bone, and then the bottom skull is the eagle standing on. I painted that silver and then gave it a non-oil wash. You'll see that black thing that's bobbing about on the camera is my El Cheapo magnifying glass thing that I got. It was, I don't know, it was like £5, £6, something like that off Amazon. Total game changer for this kind of stuff. If you haven't got one, that's a hobby purchase you need to be making. Okay. Edge highlighted that with Dark Reaper, and then I start with a mixture of Dark Reaper and Thunderhawk Blue, but it wasn't really doing much, so I just went straight on to Thunderhawk Blue, and I edge highlighted the rest of the model just with the Thunderhawk Blue. I said to you before, I used to agonise of doing like edge highlighting. It used to take me hours, literally hours, to do a Space Marine. Now it's just like, meh, that'll do. And I encourage you to get into that mindset of it's fine, it'll do, it's absolutely fine. And you're probably your own harshest critic. So I just go much quicker than I'd ever done before. And the results are absolutely passable, and I'm quite happy with them. I do come back later and give I mix some Thunderhawk Blue and some white to make a sort of lighter colour. It almost looked like Space Wolves Grey, so or whatever they call it. I don't know what they call it now. Fenrisian Grey maybe. So that was like the extreme edge highlight, was that baby blue colour, and I think it worked really, really well with the black. So that's the model pretty pretty much done. I've still got the head to do, but I love it. I think it's really effective, and I'm so glad I made the decision not to go over gold. Only I didn't think I was going to get copyright struck by YouTube. There was a film called "I'm Going to Get You, Sucker," where one of the causes of death is over gold. So that's this guy. Right. So here's my palette, and this is me. I'm mixing a little bit more white into the Thunderhawk blue, and I'm sort of making it's the light's a bit unfortunate, making a sort of baby blue color. But you'll see as this goes on, I'm just basically highlighting. Great camera work there, idiot. I'm just sort of putting tiny little spots just to draw attention to the really, really sharp corners of the model, and just above where his toes are and stuff like that. I had forgotten to highlight the rivets, so I used that colour to highlight the rivets. And as I say, we're pretty much done with the body. The head, this isn't my best head, although I do something in a minute that I never say I'm proud of anything, right? I never do. I'm just not that kind of guy. But I decided that I wanted this guy to be an ultimate headbanger, a proper nut job. So I decided I was going to give him a head tattoo. Never tried this before, but I thought, right, okay, he's missing a third of his head. So what am I going to do? So I decided that I would make up a colour with a purple to give me a sort of, I don't know what you call it, a sort of bright magenta colour wash, but I thinned it down really, really thin, and that's what I painted his eye sockets and under his chin and all the rest of it with that. And then I did my usual thing where I paint the eyeballs black and then put a single dot of white in to give him a sort of 1,000-yard stare. So once the head's all done, I've glued the model together at this point, and as you can see, it was much easier to paint the head when it was off the body itself. So I don't think you've seen the tattoo yet. Have I told you that yet? Anyway, on the top of his head, I've given him an Aquila tattoo, so hopefully you'll see that in a second. It's not going to win a golden demon. Nope, of course it's not. But I had fun doing it. It took me 2 attempts. I screwed up the first one. A big blob of paint fell off my brush. But the second one was all right. Yeah, I quite like it. It's a model that's made me really happy, and ultimately it didn't take a great deal of time for me anyway. I'm sure you're much quicker than I am. However, so the black parchment was something I'd never tried before, and I think it worked really well. I liked the tying it into the Souls of Brathnor with the Wild Rider red. I think that was a really cool thing to try and do with the gun and the piece on his backpack. So yeah, love this model. I traded with a guy, Ryan. So Ryan, if you ever watch this, thank you very much for trading with me. Without you, I couldn't have done it. So thanks very much. The basing video for the whole army is coming soon. I've got a couple of days off in November. I'm going to base the entire army, all 80 something of them. So that'll be an interesting one. So that's why his base isn't done just yet. But I'm glad I tried to tie him into the souls, and he wasn't just a generic black Templar. It's a black chaplain, and you can see his tattoo. Yeah, I'm super proud of it. So, any questions or anything like that, please do comment. It means the world when people actually engage. So, thanks very much, and we'll see you in the next video. Thank you. Cheers. Bye bye.